you wouldn't know this, Kenosha Lake Bible Camp and the Silver Heights Church both kind of came into existence at the same time, and we've just been tied together at the hip ever since then. It's not just the church, it's family, and it's friends, and a long, 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 wonderful relationship that we've had with it. Youth Center, we've also had a pretty long relationship with. But with the Youth Center has come some new friends. Brian, as you know, has gone on to other things, and now we have some new people joining us. Jenn and Don Rice have accepted the positions as drop-in directors, and already after only a few short months have just been magnets for the kids. The place has gone from, we were very happy to have 20 show up, and now we're getting in like 80, 90, 100 kids, and we're like, what do we do? So Jenn, I'm just going to let you come up and chat about that, and tell us what we can do to help.
Thank you, Miles. You know, I really have to give it up for Miles. You know, he's such a great guy. He's so committed to the Youth Center. You know, as he was saying, we were just brought on in April, so we're fairly new to the game here in Weyburn. When we started, there were just a handful of volunteers, and I say that. And Miles' commitment and dedication to the Youth Center has really been awesome. Like, it really is amazing. So I really appreciate that, Miles. And Anne-Marie, too. You guys were awesome. So I would like to say thanks for having me here. My name is Jenn Rice. Unfortunately, my husband is at the Youth Center tonight, so you just got me. That's okay, right? We took over as the drop-in directors at the Youth Center around April. Like Miles said, we had maybe 10 or 15 kids a night coming, and since school's been back, I'd say we're almost hitting 100 kids a night now, and we're open both Friday and Saturday nights. So it's really an awesome opportunity that the Lord has given us. You know, it's such a cool ministry. I'd like to start by talking a little bit about myself, just an introduction. I grew up in Manners, Saskatchewan, so not too far away. My mom and dad, I was the youngest of 6 kids. 2 were adopted. They were from the 60s scoop, but they predated me, so I was the last one. I was the baby of the family. My family upbringing was really fun. We were farmers. It was a lot of games. It was a lot of family-orientated stuff, you know. It was the 80s, so it was great. When I was around 8 years old, my dad decided that he had fallen in love with one of our adopted children. So he shared that with my mom, and that quickly led to their divorce. His trial was actually held here in Weyburn, so it made CTV News nightly. It was on the radio daily, and as a kid in grade 5, like, that was really hard to deal with. You know, kids are cruel, you know, no doubt about it. So, so I would say that was, and my mom too quite didn't know how to handle that, which I don't blame her, looking back. You know, as someone who I had never seen even drink in my life, after this incident, she got a job working at the Manor Bar and moved in her kids above the bar, the old hotel. So, and from then on, she was just kind of like in the bottom, like for probably the next 3 or 4 years, easily. So we end up, she has a string of boyfriends, you know, and they're all kind of abusive, you know, some of them drink too much, or emotionally abusive, or physically abusive, or even trying to be sexually abusive towards me. I was only 12, 13 at the time. So my mom finally decides, let's leave. We'll go to Regina, we'll stay in Transition House, right, which is a place for, you know, women to go. And so we went there. We were there for about 3 months. I can remember, I think I started grade 8 there. We were staying there. And one of her boyfriends had tracked us down. So I remember that. So I'm 13 now. And I remember saying to my mom, like, listen, Mom, it's him or me. Okay, like, I can't go back then. I'm not going to. And my mom left. She left with him and moved back to White Bear Lake. So I'm in Regina. I'm 13. I have no parents. My dad's in jail, still at this time. And my mom, I don't know what she's up to. So I ended up moving in with a boyfriend who was 20 years old. At the time I was 13. I ended up getting pregnant at 13 and having a baby at 14. And of course, those young relationships often don't last long. So I found myself 14 with a baby and also homeless. which was quite a challenge, you know. Like I couch surfed at people's houses, but yeah, a little baby in tow. Like you can only stay at your friend's house 2-3 days before the parents were like, move along. So it was really a tumultuous life growing up. Like it was very difficult. At that point, I started committing crimes just because I had to steal diapers and formula, just regular stuff to get by. Like I was 14, can't even get a job legally in Canada. So I got arrested quite a few times, and while I was in jail, I guess I was 16 at the time, my son was 2 years old, I decided to give him up for adoption. Like I figured, this life is not a life with me, it's not working out. I was thankful enough that I had enough sense to use Christian counseling services, because there's only 2 places that you could go through adoption, social services or Christian counseling services. So I did use them. And I found a really cool home for him, a Christian home, and it was an open adoption. So you get letters and pictures. So fast forward a few years, after that adoption, I gotta say this, after Jeff was gone, my son, there was really nothing holding me back. So I'm still young, I'm 16, I get out of jail. And I don't know, I kind of went on this nationwide crime spree, which ended up getting arrested in Toronto. But this was a few years later, so I'm not a kid anymore. Like I was 18, in a jail in Toronto. And that was one of those big wake-up calls. You know, it was just for stealing, that's kind of all I still got into, but it was the first time, like I can remember being in that jail with people, and it was a detention center. So there's lifers in there, people life sentences. And it really made me realize, like, this isn't a place for me. I don't want to be here, that's for sure. So thank goodness, I didn't get sentenced in Toronto, just remanded, sentenced to probation, allowed to come back to Saskatchewan. But that was it. I realized at that point, you know, I don't want to commit crime anymore. So I got my first sales job. Sales has definitely been a highlight through my career. You know, I have sold cars for 13 years. Don't hold it against me. I'm a used car salesman. But yeah, no, it was definitely something that pulled me up, was sales. And I ended up getting a traveling sales job. And I got to see all the exciting places. You know, I went to West Loch, Swift Current, Moose Jaw. There's some really cool places in Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I ended up in Slave Lake, Alberta, which is about 3 hours north of Edmonton, little Saskatchewan girl there. And at this point, my sales job was over, but I was there previously, and I remember I was trying to pay people $20 an hour to work at a call center, and I couldn't find anyone. So I was like, I'm gonna go back to that town where they had lots of money. Except this time, I was paying my way. My company wasn't. So I realized very quickly how expensive it was to live up north there as well. So my husband and I meet, and he was kind. He had a very volatile upbringing as well, but he had the foundation of Christ in his life. So that therein lies the difference, is that he always had something to like rely on, where I didn't. Like I had never come from a Christian home, or gone to church, or read the Bible, or heard the word, Lord, like the word of the Lord. So it was all new to me. But I can remember at 19 being pretty angry. Like I remember thinking, like, God, even if you are real, you must have it out for me, because I've seen people who have had really nice lives. You know, they've never had to struggle, they've never had to go through pain or loss, and I don't get it. So when my husband met me, he often recants this, I had actually wallpapered my room with the Bible, because I thought in my mind, it might as well be good for something, so I'm going to make it wallpaper. And my husband often recites that the first time he ever came into my room, he looked around and thought, oh no, do I run or do I stay? And he often says that he heard the Holy Spirit prompt him, be like, no, it's going to backfire. She surrounded herself in the Word of God. And it was true. Like, my husband's family began to talk with me more. You know, his father, and I began to hear what was God, and I always thought this was kind of an angry God, it's out to get you, you know, in my life. But he was like, no, he's a cool God. He loves you. You know, he's seen you through all these parts of your life. But it wasn't for me until I was around 18. I guess, no, I was probably 19 then. Yeah, I was at a party one night, and like I still hadn't accepted the Lord. I just heard about him more, and I really got into trouble one night. I don't know if I was going to die. It certainly felt like it, but I can remember in that moment thinking, "Is this it? Like, is this how I die?" And just crying out to God and saying, "God, if you're real, I need you to show up. Like, I need you now." And it was just like that. Like, I had an encounter with the Lord. It felt like I was taken right up into my body. It was just white, and it was just love. And I felt like I just knew that God was real, that he's divine, that he is sovereign. And I knew all of this in a moment, you know. So that was my aha moment when it came to God. Now, has my life been perfect since then? No. You know, that's not how it works when you're a Christian. You'd like to think, oh yeah, accept the Lord and everything is great. Of course, I've had my challenges in marriage. I've had my challenges with loss. We've had our challenges in business. You know, it goes on. One that definitely stands out for me is, like I said with my son, it was an open adoption. So we got letters and phone calls, and he had just turned 18. So I should say this too. While this was going on, now we're business owners, and we joined a church, and we became youth pastors there. We were youth pastors for about 7 years. And I always felt like I wanted to help kids and help youth so much because I had that son, like my wayward son that was gone out there. So I thought, well, maybe if I can reach these kids, you know, it'll ease my soul. So we had a big youth group. It was in North Central Regina, and we managed to grow it incredibly, so that was a blessing. And it was around that time, my son turned 18, and I was going to reach out to him, and he was a hockey player. He played for the Pats and all around these teams, and his mom called me and said, you know, if you're thinking about reaching out to Jeff, just wait. You know, he's really stressed out with hockey camp this summer. He's got a lot going on. We have lots of time. And I thought, you know what? I'll just wait. And, you know, I had this little red letter prepared to send him, and it was like, hey, you know, if you want to chat, I'm here. And if you don't want to chat, I'm here. I just want you to know I'm here. But I didn't send it. I just waited. And I can remember, of course, being a car salesman. I was at a car auction that Saturday. And after the auction was over, I looked down and I saw a missed call. And it was her number. It was Brendan Jim's number. And I thought, oh, wow. Like, even though we had letters and emails and pictures, she had never once called me. So I can remember getting that phone call, and I was like, yes, you know, he wants to meet me. That's exactly what I thought. So I can remember, you know, when we were done with sale, at the time I called her back, and she said to me, you know what, Jen, I am so sorry to tell you that Jeff has passed away in a car accident. Like, he was on his way to hockey camp and he passed away. So that is where my heart for youth comes from, you know, is that I really want to reach them. You know, these kids that Miles is right, we started with 10, we're doing 100. And it's such a joy just to be able to speak with these kids. Like, it really is. And I appreciate these guys who go to Africa and all around the world to minister with people. But there's a lot of need right here too, you know. I found this when I first started. It was close to Easter, so it was about 40 kids were sitting around the circle, and I thought, I'm going to give them, I always call it like a 3-minute message. I just like to hit hard, but get out of there, leave them something to think about, right? So I gathered them all around and I said, does anyone know what today is? And they're like, yeah, it's Good Friday. And I was like, okay, good. Does anyone know why it's Good Friday? And not one youth could tell me why. You know, so that to me, there's a big need right here in our own backyards. There really is. You know, I think back to when I was a kid, even though I wasn't from a Christian home, the world around me echoed Christ. You know, there was still Christmas, and people said Christmas. And when I was in grade 2 or 3 or 4, we'd have a Christmas concert, and I remember being with one of the 3 wise men. I kind of thought it was a jerky move, but it was there. Like, it was all around us. Now I find that kids, that's been stripped right away from them. You know, and you look what they're inundated with in the media, with music, you know, with social media. I couldn't even imagine that growing up. Like, they are facing so many challenges, so many more challenges than even what you or I have ever dealt with growing up. So I just, think it's so awesome to be presented this opportunity. I think that the youth center is really like a light in the darkness, and that's it. That's why I think kids are coming. They don't even know why they're coming, but it's so neat to see. And I just, I guess I have a little video. It's probably better now than ever, but if you wouldn't mind playing that up, it just kind of shows you what we've got going on. Like, the youth center is really cool. The last time I was a youth pastor, we managed to grow it to almost 100 kids, but it was in an unfinished room, in an unfinished basement of the church. So I can remember the first time I walked into Tiggs, my mind was blown. Like, I couldn't believe that now it's been like you've been given this cool gift with all this stuff in it and reach kids, and it's so cool. Like, I feel so blessed to be a part of it. So yeah, whenever you're ready. Where's your favorite place to be on Friday night? The first summer that we were open, I think in a very long time, it was awesome. I know they put that out there, do you guys want to stay open throughout the summer? And it was so cool. Like, we were open still Friday and Saturday. Now, attendance dipped down maybe a bit, probably 40 or 50 kids a night, but it was so worthwhile. I can remember one conversation with one of these guys. I was saying, what are you going to do this summer? And they said, I can't wait. I'm going to hang out with my friends every single day. And I was like, that's so cool. And he was like, you don't even know. Last year, I didn't have any friends. But this year I came here and I've made so many friends. And that's so important to these guys too, So, but yeah, of course we have floor hockey and dodgeball and pool. Yeah, ping pong. It's more like the old school games, but there's still a lot of fun to be had. Like, quite often we'll play cops and robbers outside, or hide and seek, or silly stuff like that. It's about kids being kids. And it's a safe place where they can meet friends and find hope and find love, right? So, and it's been really neat. I've been able to lead probably 40 of them through the salvation message. So that's been exciting. It's been really cool, just the opportunity that's been provided. I know, like I said, no one knew about Good Friday, and I can remember another time we probably had 60 kids gathered together, and I said to them, who here comes from a Christian home? And no one put up their hand. Not one. One kid put up his hand, and it was like, kind of, not really, but, so you're really getting access to these guys that you wouldn't otherwise. So I just feel so blessed to be a part of it. Now, of course, since we've grown to 100 kids, I do have a few requests for you guys. The first one would be your help. We're open Friday and Saturdays. One thing I would say is that since we've grown so quickly, I've even had to change the way you minister to these kids. When we're working, usually there's 3 of us. There's 3 volunteers versus 100 kids. So we're very quickly getting outnumbered, that's for sure. It also lessens your opportunity to discuss, have meaningful conversations with them one-on-one when you're kind of busy chasing tires, all night long. But I'll say one thing that's cool is that ministry is about being creative too, outreaches. So I thought maybe a couple weekends ago, okay, now we got close to 100 kids, how are we going to do it tonight? So I thought about this, and ice cream was on sale when I went to the superstore. So I ended up getting like 460 ice creams for $40, and I said, okay, whoever learns John 3:16 and can recite it to me gets an ice cream. So these kids went crazy. Like, they all were up there reciting John 3:16, and I was like, well, that was such a success. We're going to do this again. So we did Romans 10:9. Like, it's really good. It's been so exciting. Although I don't have the opportunity as much right now because we're so busy to sit down with them one-on-one, It was so cool to see 20 kids rush the canteen and be like, what Bible verse is it today? And then all practice with each other and learn it. Like, it's been so cool. It's been such a neat opportunity. So that's my first request, of course, would be for volunteers. You know, I want to grow it more. I know God's got awesome things here in store for Weyburn and for the kids here in this community, but we do really need your help to accomplish that. Secondly, I would ask for prayer. You know, I would ask for prayer for all of our leaders, you know, just that we remain sensitive to the Holy Spirit, you know, that we are obedient to God and what His will is for this place. I would pray over the building itself, like I said, that it is a light in the darkness and that kids are drawn there. You know, it's such an awesome place. It's been really a cool opportunity. And thirdly, I would ask that you pray for these kids, just that that God will prepare them. You know, that He will soften their hearts, and He, you know, will provide opportunities for ministry. So this was who can get the weirdest ping pong paddle, so it was pretty good. So it's fun there. And I really tried to use social media as well. Even though this is something that's changed dramatically in the 20 years I've been out of youth ministry, this is a really cool way now to reach people and to reach kids. You know, so quite often we have a Snap group, which we're all chatting in, TikTok and Facebook. You can find us all there under the Weyburn Youth Center. If you'd like, we do pretty much weekly updates with our videos. It kind of shows you what's going on. But it's been just outstanding and overwhelming. And I guess, of course, the third request would just be for fundraising, you know? Like, we raise operational costs around there as well, but Dawn and I, we don't draw a salary from Youth for Christ. It's totally dependent upon donations. So, yeah, it's been so exciting. I'm just so excited to see what the Lord has in store. You know, my testimony is still ongoing. I can say that, you know. Like I said, I was selling cars 13 years, and when I started picking this up in April, unfortunately my job in Regina fired me. They said, sorry, you're spending too much time in Weyburn, and we want to go a different direction. And I was like, okay. So it shows you, though, once you mature in God, you know, those left hooks, they don't hit you quite as hard. So I was like, all right, that's okay. You know, we're still working at the youth center. And yeah, I just think, you know, this last month, it was very recent. I only got fired in August, so it's still kind of new. But yeah, there's me in the salvation message to all these kids. Cool. But yes, I remember that was a struggle. And I really pressed in the Lord, and I remember saying, God, you know, if this is your will, let this situation work out. Like, it says, cast your cares upon the Lord because He cares for you. And we're supposed to bring Him our requests, you know, big and small. So I was just like, Lord, you got to work this out for our good. And of course, you have your doubters, you have friends and family who are like, what are you guys doing there? That doesn't make any sense. You know, you should go back to car sales, that's where it's at. And it's hard to reason with those guys. You're like, oh, there's something cool going on there. But just this past week, when I was experiencing a shortfall of finances, I guess, one of my old friends stepped into the woodwork and it was like, hey, I got a job for you selling this and this just around his farm equipment and this and that. So I can say in the last week, I've made my whole wage that I would have selling cars, just through this connection. So God is still teaching me to rely on Him and come to Him, and He will work it all out for your good. You know, even when it doesn't seem like there's a way, there's always a way. God's always working on our behalf. You know, and He works it all together for good for those who love Him. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for your time. It's been awesome to be here. I feel very blessed. And please keep us and these kids and this youth center in your prayers. Thank you so much.